Every time you showed them your pain, hoping for connection, you handed them a weapon. And you're still wondering why they don't respect you. Chapter 1. The vulnerability lie they installed in you. You were taught something poisonous, and you swallowed it because it felt noble. Somewhere along the way, a therapist, a book, a woman, or a culture whispered to you that openness was strength. That if you simply revealed your wounds, your fears, your failures, people would lean in. They would trust you more. They would bond with you. This is the doctrine of the declawed. Let me be precise. The philosophy of vulnerability was never designed by men who held power. It was designed for men who would never be allowed near it. It is a sedative distributed to those who must be kept manageable, wrapped in the language of healing, marketed as evolution. You were not educated. You were disarmed. Look carefully at the men who dominate boardrooms, courtrooms, political arenas, any arena where real consequence exists. You will not find them sharing their truth. You will not see them misty-eyed in interviews about their childhood. You will not catch them confessing insecurity to build authentic connection. They learned a different curriculum. They learned that every word is a move, every expression a signal, every revealed weakness, a door left unlocked at night in a city that does not sleep. But you were handed a different script. You were told, be real, be open, let them see you. And so you did. You opened your chest and showed them the architecture of your doubts. You told friends about your fears. You admitted failure to colleagues. You cried in front of women, hoping it would prove depth. And then you noticed something you were never warned about. They didn't respect you more. They respected you less. Not loudly, not obviously, but slowly, quietly, irreversibly, the room rearranged itself around your confession. You became someone to be handled, not followed. Managed, not feared. Tolerated, not chosen. This is not cruelty. This is physics. Respect does not operate on the principles of emotional truth. It operates on the principles of perceived inviolability. The man who appears to have no cracks becomes a fixed point in the chaos of other people's lives. The man who displays his fractures becomes a mirror for their own anxiety, and humans do not elevate what reminds them of their own fragility. You were told vulnerability creates intimacy. What it actually creates is classification. You get sorted. Not into the category of trustworthy or deep, but into the category of safe to deprioritize. This is the transaction no one explained to you. Every time you offered a weakness hoping for closeness, you were making a trade. And you were on the losing side of it every single time. Because what you gave was real, and what you received was a performance of acceptance that evaporated the moment you needed power, leverage, or genuine loyalty. The classical minds understood this. Machiavelli did not write about emotional availability. Marcus Aurelius did not journal so his court could browse his fears. Balthasar Gracian built an entire architecture of conduct around one premise: what is visible is vulnerable. They knew what the modern world has tried to make you forget. Concealment is not dishonesty. It is structure. It is the difference between a fortress and a tent. You do not owe the world access to your interior, and the world will not reward you for granting it. You were trained to bleed publicly and call it bravery. Now you will be retrained to command what you reveal and let silence become your architecture. Chapter 2. The Mechanics of Contempt. This is not about morality. This is about machinery. When you expose weakness, you are not making a social decision. You are triggering a biological sequence, one that predates language, culture, and every ideal you were taught to value. Understand this clearly. The human brain did not evolve in boardrooms or therapy sessions. It evolved in environments where vulnerability was a death sentence. Where the limping animal was not nurtured, it was abandoned or eaten. Where the tribe member who could not hold his position became a liability to the survival of the group. These circuits are not gone. They are buried beneath your modern vocabulary, running silently beneath every interaction you have. When you display weakness, when you confess failure, show fear, or reveal that you are struggling, you are not speaking to someone's compassion. You are speaking to an ancient algorithm that sorts humans into categories: threat or prey, leader or liability, asset or burden. And once that algorithm classifies you, it does not easily reclassify. This is the mechanism of contempt. It does not require cruelty. It does not require conscious thought. It is faster than reason, and it is running in every person you confess to. Watch carefully next time. Watch what happens in someone's eyes when you admit you don't know what you're doing. Watch the shift in posture when you reveal financial trouble or romantic failure or deep insecurity. They will say the right things. Their words will perform support. But something else will happen underneath, a repositioning. a recalculation of your value in their mental hierarchy. You will feel it even if you cannot name it. A subtle cooling, a half-second delay in their response, a new tone that wasn't there before. This is not betrayal. This is installation. You installed yourself in a lower slot, and they simply accepted the placement. Here is what makes this devastating. It compounds. Every confession adds data. Every visible struggle confirms the pattern. The brain builds a model of you, and weakness, once registered, becomes the lens through which everything else is interpreted. Your achievements become lucky. Your confidence becomes overcompensation. Your opinions become less relevant. Not because you changed, but because their perception did. And perception in the social world is reality. Respect is not a moral verdict. It is a biological signal that says, this one does not fold under pressure. It is triggered not by virtue but by evidence of invulnerability. The man who reveals nothing becomes a blank screen onto which others project competence, control, and power. The man who reveals everything becomes a case file. You thought honesty would create trust. But trust is not intimacy. Trust in the strategic sense is this: do I believe this person will remain consistent under pressure? When you show your fractures, you answer that question badly. You demonstrate that pressure finds a way in. You become a calculated risk in every room you enter. Not because you are weak, but because you showed that you could be reached, that something in you bends, that there is a place where, if pressed, you would break open. This information does not create closeness. It creates leverage. And in the theater of human power, whether that stage is a negotiation, a relationship, or a social circle, leverage is never left unused. It is stored. It is remembered. And it is deployed the moment it becomes advantageous. You did not build connection. You built a file on yourself and handed it to people who will never show you theirs. The machinery does not care about your intentions. It only registers what you reveal. Chapter 3: 3 types of men who bleed publicly. You are not unique in your exposure. You follow a pattern. There are 3 species of men who hand over their interior without negotiation. Each believes he is doing something noble, strategic, or necessary. Each is feeding a mechanism he does not understand. You belong to one of them, perhaps more than one. Identify yourself before someone else does it for you. The confessor. This man mistakes disclosure for depth. He believes that if he speaks his darkness aloud, it will somehow transmute into wisdom. He tells people about his mistakes before they ask. He volunteers his failures in conversations that did not require them. He thinks this makes him self-aware. It does not. What it makes him is pre-defeated. He has told the room who he is before the room had a chance to discover it, and he told them the worst parts first. The confessor operates under a religious logic, that admission leads to absolution. But the social world is not a church. There is no priest. There is no forgiveness. There is only memory, classification, and consequence. Every time the confessor speaks his sin, he imagines a weight lifting. What actually happens is a transfer. He moves the information from his chest into their arsenal, and they file it under his name, permanently. He walks away feeling lighter. They walk away knowing where to cut. The approval beggar. This one does not confess for relief. He confesses for response. He reveals weakness because he is trying to purchase connection. He shows his wounds and watches for softness in their eyes. He needs the other person to lean in, to reassure, to say, I understand. And when they do, he feels momentary safety. He mistakes their performance for bond. But here is the transaction he does not see. Every time he extracts reassurance through displayed fragility, he trains them to see him as someone who requires management. He becomes emotional labor. His presence becomes a demand. The approval beggar believes he is building intimacy. He is building dependency, and dependency does not attract respect. It attracts tolerance, and tolerance has a shelf life. Eventually they stop responding. Not because they are cruel, but because the cost of maintaining him exceeds the value of keeping him close. He will call this abandonment. It is not. It is economics. The wounded storyteller. This is the most sophisticated failure of the 3, because he wraps his weakness in narrative. He tells stories of past pain as if they are credentials. He speaks of trauma like a badge. He believes that his suffering history makes him interesting, gives him depth, earns him exemption from ordinary judgment. But here is what he does not realize. No one promotes a victim. The wounded storyteller builds his identity around what was done to him. And in doing so, he signals, loudly, repeatedly, that he is shaped by forces outside his control. He advertises that he can be affected, that the world gets in. This is the opposite of command. Powerful men may carry wounds. Many do. But they do not display them as identity. They do not offer their scars as introductions. They understand that narrative is a weapon, and the story you tell about yourself is either a throne or a cage. The wounded storyteller chooses the cage, and then wonders why no one follows him. Now look again. Which one are you? Perhaps you rotate between them. The confessor in private, the approval beggar in relationships, the wounded storyteller in your public mythology. It does not matter which mask you wear. The function is identical. You give pieces of yourself away, expecting return, receiving erosion. This is not strategy. This is leakage. And it must stop, not through willpower, but through understanding what it is actually costing you. Chapter 4: What Emperors and Warlords Understood. History is not a museum. It is a manual. And if you read it correctly, you will find one pattern burned into every page where power was held, defended, and expanded. The men who ruled were the men who could not be read. This is not philosophy. This is field data from 5,000 years of human hierarchy. Start with Machiavelli, not the caricature but the strategist who watched Florence fall and rise, who studied what actually kept men in power versus what should have kept them there. His conclusion was surgical. It is not necessary for a prince to have all the good qualities, but it is necessary to appear to have them. Read that again, slowly. He did not say, be virtuous. He did not say, be honest. He said, control the appearance. Because Machiavelli understood something the modern world pretends is not true. Perception governs outcome. The prince who displayed his doubts invited conspiracy. The prince who displayed his fears invited invasion. The prince who wept in front of his court woke up shorter by a head. Concealment was not a preference. It was architecture. Move forward. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, philosopher king, stoic mind. You have seen his quotes on Instagram, stripped of context, softened into self-help. But read his actual practice. Marcus wrote his meditations privately. His journal was never meant for publication. He processed his fears, his frustrations, his exhaustion, on pages no advisor would ever see. In public he was granite. In the Senate, unreadable. On the battlefield, immovable. He understood the division that modern men have forgotten. There is an interior and there is a display. They are not the same. And collapsing them is not integrity, it is suicide by transparency. The journal was his pressure valve. The mask was his survival. Now go east. Study the courts of imperial China, where power was a theater measured in silences. Advisors spent decades learning not what to say, but what to withhold. The emperor who revealed preference created factions. The emperor who revealed weakness created successors. In that world, concealment was so essential it became its own language. Ministers learned to read micro-expressions because words could not be trusted. The face was a battlefield. Every flicker of emotion was a potential weapon handed to an enemy. These men were not paranoid. They were accurate. They understood that courts, boardrooms, social circles, any gathering of humans with competing interests, operate on the same logic. Information asymmetry determines outcome. The one who is known is the one who is controlled. Go further back. Examine the warlords, the tribal chiefs, the men who built civilizations from violence and negotiation. You will not find a single one who built his throne on emotional accessibility. What you will find is ritual, symbol, distance. The king sat higher, spoke less, revealed nothing. Not because he lacked feeling, but because he understood that feeling, once visible, becomes a leash in someone else's hand. This is the inheritance you were denied. You were given therapy. You were given communication workshops. You were given vulnerability TED Talks from men who already had power and could afford to simulate openness. But you were not given the original curriculum, the one written in blood and tested across centuries. That curriculum says this: the interior is a fortress. Access is granted deliberately, rarely, and only when strategically advantageous. Everything else is performance, and performance is not dishonesty. It is sovereignty. The emperors knew. The warlords knew. The strategists who kept their heads while others lost theirs, they all knew. Now you know. The question is whether you will act on it, or continue mistaking exposure for evolution. Chapter 5: The Protocols of Surface Command. Knowledge without application is entertainment. You now understand the cost. You see the machinery. You recognize the pattern in yourself. But understanding does not protect you, only behavior does. This chapter is not philosophy. It is protocol. These are the tactical instruments of surface command, the methods by which you control what escapes, what is visible, what others are permitted to perceive. Master them and you stop being read. Stop being read and you stop being managed. Protocol 1. The delay. Your first enemy is speed. When emotion rises, your face moves before your mind catches up. Fear flashes in the eyes. Anger tightens the jaw. Hurt softens the posture. These micro-expressions occur in fractions of a second, and they are registered by everyone watching, whether consciously or not. The delay is your counter-weapon. Train yourself to insert a gap between stimulus and response. When someone says something that triggers you, pause. Not dramatically, not obviously, but internally create a 2-second wall between what you feel and what you display. In that 2 seconds, choose your face, choose your posture, choose your words, or choose silence. This is not suppression. Suppression implies internal struggle. The delay is architecture. You are building a gate between your interior and your exterior, and you are deciding what passes through. Practice first in low-stakes environments. Someone insults you casually. Someone delivers bad news. Someone tests your reaction to see where you crack. Do not give them data. Delay. Select. Display only what serves you. Protocol 2. The redirect. You will be probed. This is certain. People ask personal questions not always from care, but from curiosity, from strategy, from the unconscious desire to classify you. How are you really doing? What's been hard lately? You seem stressed. What's going on? These questions are presented as intimacy. They are often extraction. The redirect allows you to escape without closing the door entirely. You answer, but you answer laterally. You give the shape of a response without the substance. Example, what's been hard lately? Weak response, detailed confession of struggles. Strong redirect, a few moving pieces. Nothing I haven't handled before. What's going on with you? Notice the structure. Acknowledgement of difficulty, but vague. Framed as managed. And then the pivot. You return the question. You transfer the spotlight. The redirect is not evasion. It is control of frame. You decide what is discussed. You decide what remains private. You give them enough to feel answered, but nothing they can use. Master this and you become Teflon. Their probes slide off. They leave conversations feeling they connected, but they hold nothing. Protocol 3. The mask of calm. Emotion is contagious. This is neurological fact. When you display anxiety, others register threat. When you display frustration, others register instability. When you display sadness, others register burden. But when you display calm, especially in moments where calm is unexpected, you do something far more powerful. You signal that you operate on a different level, that the pressures affecting others do not reach you. This is the mask of calm. It is not serenity, it is performed in vulnerability. In crisis, slow your voice, lower the pitch slightly, reduce the movement of your hands. Let your breathing become visible, steady, unhurried. Make your face still, not frozen but composed. This is theater, and theater works. The room will look to you, not because you have answers, but because you appear to be unaffected. And in hierarchies, human or animal, the unaffected one is assumed to be in control. Do this consistently and something shifts. People begin to treat you differently. They bring you problems because you seem like you can handle them. They defer to you because you appear to be above the chaos. The mask becomes the man, not falsely but strategically. You train the exterior and eventually the interior follows. Protocol 4. Strategic silence. The untrained man fills silence with words. He is uncomfortable with gaps, so he speaks, often revealing more than he intended. The trained man uses silence. When asked a question you do not wish to answer, pause. Hold their gaze. Let the silence extend one beat beyond comfort. Then respond minimally or not at all. Silence signals that you do not owe them a response. It signals that you are evaluating, not reacting. It shifts the power dynamic instantly. They will often fill the silence themselves, revealing their position while you reveal nothing. This is leverage created from absence. These are your protocols. Delay, redirect, mask, silence. They are not personality changes. They are installations. You are not becoming someone else. You are taking command of what is already yours. Chapter 6. Execute the man who needed to be understood. There is a man inside you who must die. Not metaphorically. Not gently. Not through gradual evolution over years of self-improvement. He must be identified, isolated, and ended, deliberately, surgically, without mourning. He is the man who still believes that if he is truly seen, he will be truly loved. This is the deepest installation. The one beneath all the others. The belief that buried beneath your competence, your strategy, your surface command, There is a core self that deserves to be witnessed. And that one day, if you find the right person, the right relationship, the right moment of connection, you will offer that core and it will be received. This is the fantasy that has cost you everything. Because every time you acted from this belief, you bled out in front of someone who did not deserve access. You handed them your interior hoping for sanctuary, and received classification instead. You kept searching for the person who would finally understand, and in that search you made yourself understood by everyone, which means controllable by anyone. The man who needs to be understood is a liability. He makes decisions based on hope. He reveals based on longing. He enters rooms still looking for the parent who never came, the friend who never stayed, the woman who would finally see him whole and choose him anyway. And that looking, that endless, silent, desperate looking, it leaks out of you. People sense it. They may not name it, but they feel it. The faint hunger beneath your composure. The need hiding behind your words. It repels the respect you want. It attracts the exploitation you fear. This is not a wound to be healed. This is a program to be uninstalled. You do not need to be understood. You need to be effective. You do not need to be seen. You need to be positioned. The interior is not a gift waiting for the right recipient. It is a territory to be governed, by you and only you. What does it mean to execute this man? It means you stop waiting. You stop hoping the next person will be different. You stop rehearsing the confession you will one day give to someone worthy. You stop believing that wholeness comes from being witnessed. Wholeness comes from sovereignty. The man who needs to be understood cannot hold power, because he will always trade it for intimacy. He will give up position for connection. He will reveal strategy for closeness. He will sacrifice the long game for a moment of feeling known. And power does not forgive that trade. You must replace him. Not with a mask, masks crack. Not with suppression, suppression explodes. But with a new architecture. A self that is complete without audience. A man who does not require external mirrors to know his own shape. This is the rebirth. You become the man who holds his interior as private dominion. Not because he is cold, but because he understands that warmth, in the wrong hands, is a weapon against him. Not because he cannot connect, but because he chooses connection as a strategic act, not an emotional compulsion. He still feels. He may feel deeply, but he does not display feeling as identity. He does not offer his pain as credentials. He does not seek confirmation of his value from those who have not earned access. He is his own witness, his own validator, his own throne. This is not isolation. It is architecture. The man who needed to be understood was built in a time when you had no power. He was a survival strategy for a boy who could only negotiate through openness, who had no leverage except his willingness to be known. You are no longer that boy, and the strategy that kept him alive is now keeping you small. End him. Not with anger. Not with shame. With precision. Thank him for his service. Acknowledge what he carried. And then close the door, permanently. The man who rises in his place does not confess. Does not leak. Does not hope to be finally seen. He commands. Chapter 7. The irreversible cost of being fully known. There is a price you have already paid, and it cannot be refunded. Every confession you made. Every wound you displayed. Every moment you opened your chest and let someone see the machinery inside. Those moments are permanent. You cannot unreveal. You cannot take back what they now know. You cannot rewind the conversation where you admitted too much, showed too much, needed too much. That information is installed in their model of you, and it will color every interaction that follows. This is the irreversible cost. Once they see inside you, you cannot unsee yourself through their eyes. You will feel it every time you speak to them. A faint awareness that they remember. That they know the thing you wish they didn't. That behind their neutral expression is the catalog of everything you confessed, everything you exposed, everything that made you smaller in their evaluation. And you will adjust. Unconsciously. You will speak differently. Hold yourself differently. You will try to compensate for what they know, which only confirms that it mattered. That it changed the frame. You handed them a map to your interior. And now they navigate you. This is what the vulnerability doctrine never warned you about. It sold you connection. It delivered surveillance. Every person who knows your weakness becomes a historian of your fragility. And history once written is not easily erased. They may never use it against you overtly. They may never mention it. But it sits in the room between you, a quiet, permanent shift in the geometry of respect. You are no longer unknown. You are no longer a question they must treat carefully. You are known, which means categorized, which means managed. And here is the deepest cut. You will begin to see yourself as they see you. This is the psychological trap no one explains. Once you expose your interior and watch their reaction, the micro-expression of pity, the slight withdrawal, the performance of support that doesn't quite land, you internalize their view. You adopt their lens. You begin to doubt the competence you once trusted. You begin to perform strength instead of inhabiting it. You become a man trying to prove he is not what he already showed them he was. This is the death spiral. And the only way to stop it is to stop feeding it, to draw the line, to make the decision that from this moment forward, the interior is no longer public domain. No more confessions hoping for closeness. No more bleeding in front of audiences who did not earn the right to your truth. No more trading your sovereignty for the temporary comfort of feeling understood. The path forward is singular and unforgiving. You become the man who conceals strategically, who reveals nothing unless it serves a purpose, who controls every signal, every word, every expression. Not because he is dishonest, but because he understands that in a world of competing interests, exposure is cost and mystery is capital. You rebuild the fortress. You close the gates. You become unreadable again. This will feel lonely at first. It is not loneliness. It is sovereignty reclaimed. The people who cannot handle your new impermeability will fall away. Let them. They were never loyal to you. They were loyal to the access you gave them. They were consumers, not allies. What replaces them will be different. Fewer people, but of higher caliber. People who respect boundaries because they hold their own. People who do not require your wounds as proof of authenticity. And more importantly, you will respect yourself again. Because self-respect does not come from being known. It comes from being governed. From proving to yourself that you can hold the line. That you are not a spillway for every emotion, a confessional for every anxiety, a stage for every wound. You are a sovereign territory. Borders enforced. Access controlled. This is not the end of feeling. It is the beginning of command. The choice is binary. You either continue as you have been, leaking, confessing, hoping the next person will finally be the one who rewards your openness with loyalty, and you watch respect erode until there is nothing left but the performance of connection with people who do not fear or follow you. Or you stop. Today. No. You execute the man who needed to be understood. You install the protocols. You become unreadable. You rebuild yourself as the fixed point in other people's chaos. Silent, solid, unmoved. One path leads to command. The other leads to entropy. There is no third option. There is no middle ground. You are either known or you are respected. Choose.